Bye. New flooring, new flooring in your house? Getting new flooring?
Yes.
They can be glad to get done.
Yes. Well, part of it's new. I have hardwood floors, but for some reason when they built the house, they stopped looking at the dining area under the dining table. And so I'm getting new hardwood floors in that area, and then just refinishing it. So I've got.
Are you getting the water?
Yes. Yes.
They say those are real nice.
And he came and looked at, pulled up the carpet a little bit, looked at my head, and said, I think it's rental. I said, I don't know if it's rental or what it is. But anyway, he ended up getting rental for the dining room, and we got the carpet all up. That was the right choice.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway,
I've got laminate on, well, I've got tile, square tile in the bathroom. I like it. I don't like it perfect.
My niece, they put hardwood in their whole house, and she said they did it 2 or 3 rooms at a time. They move all the furniture from a couple of 3 rooms and get the rest of the house and do those, and then I think it took them pretty well. Well, I think that's how long, but it was a while. But anyway, they had it. They didn't refinish it themselves. They had some.
I think that's the way the professionals do it. They one out of one room. My brother-in-law said, he said this couple couldn't move out of their house, and they just kind of they put it down.
You ready?
And they said, yeah, take
That's
it.
what
Yeah.
Robin and Paul did. They didn't move out.
Good morning. Glad to see everybody here this morning visiting. We've got a special treat all the way from Newton, Iowa. We've got Brother Fred Rhodes this morning. Fred, you've been in Iowa for how long?
14 years.
14 years. It's a long time. We were talking back there earlier, and he said, I don't have to have something to do. I don't even have to have any idea of what to do when I want to get up in the morning to have a full day and go all day. And if you've spent 5 minutes with him, you understand how that's possible. Fred's got a passion for lost souls. He's been instrumental in the Newton area. You guys, we're kind of spoiled down here because churches are so, I guess, abundant. There's so many churches. Where's the closest church to you? Marshalltown?
Des Moines or Marshalltown, about the same.
How far?
About 30 miles.
30 miles. And we've got 2 in town here, probably 4 in the area. So he's helped the church grow up there. We've supported him for several years. Before I was ever involved with Fred, I think we were supporting him, and he's done a lot of good work. And obviously, like any good husband, he's got a wife that keeps him on point, on track all the time. He's brought Dorothy with him. You're going to enjoy hearing about the work up there this morning in the class hour, and then he's going to preach for us in the worship hour. Without any further ado, I'll give it to Fred.
Do I need this?
Yeah, I'm deaf.
You're deaf? Yeah. All right, give me a second. Let's see if I can take care of this for deaf people. I used to be able to see. That was years ago. And so I think all the way to the right?
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes.
All right. Sounds good. See if we can't get this settled out here. All right. Well, it's good to be here, guys. It's always a privilege to come down. I know that actually the congregation here started helping the work there in '07. I came down a few months before we began the work, and that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. And since then, we've come a long ways. I just want to say that in Iowa, there's basically less congregations in the state than there are a lot of phone books down here. And you know those things you used to get in the mail, and you'd use them to find phone numbers? Okay. Well, anyway, and so planting a church in Iowa is not like it is in the South. In the South, it's easy to take, a part of a congregation and move them across town and plant a congregation. And so within a year or two, they've got elders, they got a nice building, and they're going really good. We aren't able to do it that way in Iowa. So what we do is we go out into the community, and we meet people in the community and study the Bible with them. And so it's a little different work up there. And so in order to be able to have elders, you're looking at a lot of growth process. Either that, or you got some faithful families that move in. Which, anybody ever thought about moving to Iowa? Do you even know Iowa exists? It's a rarity. Now, I think there's this family here that knows Brian and Shelley Hendricks. I can't remember. They used to be at Donovan. Okay. About 3 years ago, I think, Brian and Shelley were in the process of moving for a job, and they said they really wanted to move somewhere where the church wanted to be evangelistic and was working to grow. And it just so happened that Rock Communications was looking for an employee that did what he did. And they came, and we got them busy. All right, they're wonderful. And it is good to have a family that has kind of grown up in the Lord's church and has a lot of maturity. It makes a difference. Now, one of the things, of course, we focus on winning the lost in the community and then helping them to grow and mature. This past Tuesday, I baptized 2 people into Christ, a husband and wife, and I've been studying with them since sometime last year. She started attending occasionally during COVID because the church she went to, they didn't have services, and she was missing it. And she came. Wasn't long. I had a Bible study going with her. It was more of a counseling session, and because she was going through some struggles. And so we studied about that and still looked at some challenges and different things that the Bible gives for encouragement to be able to deal with the problems. Well, we kind of got through that after about a month or two, and I told her, I said, you know what? Knowing those few little details is only a very minor part of getting your life together and letting it all come together. I said, I got some other things I'd like to study with you and your husband. And they agreed. And of course, over that period of time, I don't know, it's been 5 or 6 months that we've been doing, they came to understand the truth, and then this past Tuesday I baptized them into Christ. They are desirous, very desirous of serving the Lord, and it's great to have them. But I want you to see that because I want you to understand the growth process. Now, one of the things that we need to remember is that when we baptize somebody into Christ, they've been in the world. Okay, they may have been in the denominational world, but they got a different concept about what religion is all about. This couple was very standoffish for a long time. And part of the reason is because they've been used to cliques, they've been used to being hurt, they've been used to a lack of love in the churches that they had attended. And so they were concerned, and they were very careful about getting involved because they didn't want to be hurt again. And so they've slowly learned that Newton's different. The love that is there is is a common bond that brings us together as one. Now, I realize we're only about 20 people, but we're all on the same page. Now, there's different levels of maturity, and of course, as I lay somebody back in the water, a lot of times I'm thinking, okay, what troubles we're going to head for? Okay, what challenges lay ahead to be able to help them to grow? For instance, Roy, I baptized him numerous years ago. I'd known him for numerous years. He cleaned my carpets for me, and he did not want anything to do with God. He led a pretty good ungodly life most of his life, and wouldn't talk about religion, wouldn't have anything to do with it. But he got sick. And my wife and I walk at Walmart, okay? And so we met him at Walmart one day and found out that he'd just been in the hospital and we were afraid he was going to die. And so we were able to get a study with him. In fact, he's the first person I'd shown the Jewel Miller film strips to in a long, long time. Because that was something that he would do. He would look at a video, but I just couldn't get him to do the other. After we did that, then he did the other. But one of the things, as Roy obeyed the gospel, to get him to come to services more than Sunday morning worship was like pulling hen's teeth. Wouldn't have anything to do with it. He didn't see the need, wasn't interested, and wouldn't get involved any more than that. And I was kind of pretty discouraged because 1 week out of the month, he would go down to Rutledge, and he had a little junk dealership there and a flea market type deal, and that was their weekend. So they were missing services once a month in the summertime. And so I kept trying to encourage him. Finally, I got him to come for, I don't know if it was a Bible class or something, and he began to catch fire. Now, that was numerous years ago. Over that period of time, of course, it's a constant challenge to help people to grow. It's a constant challenge to take them from where they're at, and a lot of these people, they've been ungodly. They've lived ungodly lives, and Christianity is a totally foreign concept to them. Where a lot of times we grow up in the Lord's church, and we grow up in families that took us to church. We never missed services. We go to all gospel meetings. We made every vacation Bible school or event, and so it was kind of natural. Them, it's not so. And so Roy, over a period of time, started growing to where he'd never miss services. About 1 or 2 years ago, we started having devotionals on Wednesday night, and he actually agreed to do that. He refused to do a lot of other stuff, but he agreed to that finally. And so was it September that Shelley and them got COVID? I can't remember, but it was about that time. They got COVID. The whole family was quarantined for about 3 months. And so they called on a Sunday afternoon and said, we got problems. So I called Roy and I said, you're leading songs tonight. He said, no, I'm not. I said, yes, you are. He said, no, I'm not. I said, yes, you are. And so you get to know Roy, anyway. But at any rate, so I finally told him, I said, look, the Hendricks are out. None of them are coming. They got COVID, and they can't come to church. And so he grudgingly agreed. For months, he was our song leader. Something happened, and I had to be gone, and guess who filled in preaching? Guess who is so amazing today? It's Roy. His maturity has just exponentially changed in the past, since September. And he'd come a long ways before that, but keep in mind, this is a process. It's not like taking a lot of mature members from a congregation and taking them across town and starting another congregation. It's a totally different world. We don't relate with that up there. We're going into the community and we're teaching people that have lived worldly lives. They don't know anything about the church. They don't even know anything about religion a lot of times. And what they do know, they don't have a very good taste in their mouth. And so in order to be able to bring them along, it's a growth process. it's not uncommon for a new convert to get mad and go to cursing like, you know, it's a growth process. And so, but it's so amazing to watch Steve, is another Christian that obeyed the gospel a couple years ago. He'll hang his head and say, I've done this all my life. He said, I'm trying. He said, I know that God let me live long enough to obey the gospel, that I know I got work to do. And he said, I'm struggling. It's amazing to watch him. He's trying. But see, this is where it's easy to look at some of the challenges that they go through and think that they don't care when they're actually fighting a battle from within. And they haven't come to the point, they haven't reached that maturity where they have the strength and the remembrance, okay? As a Christian, we don't do these things. But they're learning and they're growing and they're going forward. And so the process, it's a slow, painstaking process. And it takes time. And I think this is one of the challenges that all of us need to recognize. As you all go out into the community and you win the lost, you got to remember that they're not going to be where you're at. Not in 2 years, not in 4 years. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience. It's going to take love. It's going to take compassion. It's going to take encouragement. It's going to take some prodding sometimes to get them to go forward and get to where they will understand and accept and know the truth of the gospel. But guys, it's worth the effort. It's worth the effort. You know, we've come to the point finally in Newton, and it's really an exciting time where basically the whole congregation is on fire to win the lost. Isn't that odd? And everybody, and what I try to encourage everybody to do is do what you love. One of the things that would exponentially grow the church is if you do what you love to do with a focus. And the focus has to be, I want to win the individual that I'm looking at in the face to Christ. It's not about programs, okay? And we have different things that we do in Newton to reach out. But it's not about that. It's not about some big splash. It's not about finding some work that you spend a whole lot of money on. It's about you and I as individuals going about our life, doing the things that we love for the purpose of leading the people that we meet to Jesus Christ. Isn't that what happened in Acts chapter 8 and verse 4? They were scattered running for their life, and they were going everywhere, and they were telling people about Jesus. But they were doing what they wanted to do. They wanted to save their skin. Okay? And as they went, they had to find a job. They had kids to take care of. They had elderly parents to take care of. They had all these problems that you and I find to do. But they turned the world upside down and went everywhere building the church exponentially. Now, if you and I want to do that, we can do that. But look, I love to fly an airplane, okay? And you know what my focus is? Win them to Christ. I've studied with my flight instructor. I've had a lot of opportunities with others. You know, I like to fish, okay? Albert is at School of Preaching right now, okay? When you got him on the fishing boat, he's toast. I got him. Okay? We're going to talk about the Bible. We're going to get around to it. And you know what? He obeyed the gospel. And he'll be graduating in June, and he's going to be preaching the congregation up in Iowa after that. And so use what you like to do. Okay? And do it with a purpose. We've got a lady, Carrie. We got two of them that are similar. But she is into, she's got a real personality and a real mind to dream up stuff. And so she's been putting things together. And we Do y'all do the house to house? You don't do the house to house? Okay. So we do house to house, and they send out a packet, a list of all the newcomers, move-ins during the month. Okay? And we get, there's 40 to 80 to 100 every month. And so we get that list and we send them out we've been putting this packet together, and the ladies got together and they put these things together and ideas about what they can do to give them information, let them know about the church, invite them and that kind of thing, things that they can keep in mind to remember the Church of Christ when they see this stuff. And so we've got that, and we're starting to send that out to these people. COVID shut us down where we couldn't visit people like we wanted to. But this puts something in their hand. And so this is what some of the members came up with. Said, why don't we do this? And so we do that. And that's one of those things that costs some money. But you know what? It's the Lord's money, so what's it matter? Okay? And it'll be okay. But so what we try to do is we get everybody involved. A couple of weeks ago, Maggie is another one of those really neat stories. Maggie ran away from home at 14. And she went to drug crowd. Well, what you could do at 14, okay? She ended up getting in trouble, doing time. Three years ago, somebody brought her to us and said she needs some help moving to a different apartment. She needs some assistance. So she started attendance with us. We helped her get into the new apartment. Soon had a study with her, and she obeyed the gospel. Well, Maggie can be a challenge. And I don't know, it's maybe 6 months to a year ago, I was preaching a lesson on love or teaching in a Bible class, and Maggie was sitting back off on the right side, and she said, Fred, sometimes people don't know how to love. And that really struck me. And I realized why Maggie was the way she was. And believe me, we've been through some ups and downs with Maggie. And there's times you want to strangle and kick her to the curb. But then I started to work to capitalize on what I saw as an awakening in her mind to know, from my perspective, she didn't know how to do this stuff. You ought to see Maggie now. She's such a joy to be around, and she's catching it. We've started letting her clean the building, and we pay a little bit to do that. She's on dialysis. She's waiting for kidneys, so she can't work. And so we did that, and so she worked for a little bit and sit and work and sit. And she has a great time, new lease on life. But we've been getting involved with her more, and which you have all along, but she's starting to catch it. And now, when we're around Maggie, she's got this glow on her face. And she's fun to be around, where before, you don't want to text Maggie. Okay? Because you text Maggie, she's going to hurt your feelings. And that's even getting better. There was a graduation party yesterday, and there were some people that were kind of mistreating her that was going to be at that party. And she said, Fred, I'm not going to go because they're going to be there. And I said, well, Maggie, don't let people stop you from doing what you love. She said, I'm learning, and right now I don't have the strength to not do what I shouldn't do. And I said, Maggie, I'm proud of you. You're a wonderful sister. Growth. It's so easy to take advantage or take for granted where we've been and how far we need to go, simply because we're used to this. We grew up in a Christian home, a lot of us. And we had loving parents that treated us good. And it's hard to relate with people that didn't have that. You know, Roy at a young age was kicked to the curb and somebody else took him in and adopted him. You know? Maggie had such a miserable existence. I mean, she left home at 14. Okay? Ain't no wonder she ended up in trouble. So she's on the streets at 14. But she's learning to love, and it's transforming her life, and she's excited about life now. In fact, a few weeks ago, she's always working. She gets frustrated because she hasn't led anybody to Christ. And Stacy's the same way. She's just so upset because she hasn't led anybody to Christ. But those people that they invite, they keep coming. You know, Diana came here a couple weeks ago. And we were going to take her out to dinner afterwards, but she had a family gathering that she was going to, but she enjoyed it. She said, I love it. She said, we get Bible here. She said, we don't get that where I go to church. And so I thought, well, that's pretty neat. So, but anyway, we'll work with Diana as time comes. And so as we work on these things, we just keep trying to go forward, and we recognize that it's a process. There's a couple that I started studying with, I don't know, probably 6 years ago. And so we studied with them, spent some time with them, and they flew the coop, and he's got drug problems. And they finally started calling me, and they said, okay, we've always, she considers this her church, and so we're working to get back with them and get involved with them in their lives because, you know, but they're all normal, okay? He was going to be there today, and he calls, and he said, yesterday, he said, Fred, he said, not going to be able to make it tomorrow because I've got somebody that's supposed to move, and I told him I'd help him. I said, why don't you help him in the afternoon? He said, oh, no, he said, I told him I'd help him. I said, you know what? I said, Satan brings that up, and he'll find something at every service to keep you from coming. I've got enough relationship I can do this. A lot of people I wouldn't be that bold, but with Robert, I'm pretty bold. You know, I took a lady, member of the church, over to Iowa City for a doctor's appointment on Wednesday, and I'm standing around on the street because you can't do anything, and he calls. So we had an hour Bible study on the street. You know, I'm on the phone, and so I just told him, I said, it's just Satan. I said, he'll find something for next week. He'll find something for Wednesday. And so, but at any rate, we work with them, and we try to help them grow. And you know what? I know they're not there yet, but maybe a year down the road, they'll be there. And the more you learn about their problems, a lot of times the more you learn about why they have not come to listen to the Bible yet. And that was Roy's problem. He lived a terrible life. And he was not the kind of an individual that you would want to be around. He was a mess. But he's the most amazing brother. He adds spice to everybody's life whenever you come around. He's such a joy. He's always joking, and he's always a lot of fun. Don't ever take him serious, because you'll be mistaken if you do, because he's always joking about owing money or whatever. There's always something going on with him.
He goes around and meets everybody now, whereas he didn't used to.
Yeah, he goes around and meets everybody. I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell you about the congregation. You brought that subject up. Diana came about 2 weeks ago, and I want you to tell me how many in the congregation went up to Diana and say, so glad that you came today. I hope you come back. Give me a guess. Well, there were 20 people there, so you were right. Everybody. And you know what? It made her feel good. I want to encourage you in something. And can keep in mind, these are people that some of these newcomers, just several months ago, I was telling them, look, you don't even need to say much. Just go up and say, hi, I'm glad you came. And they're scared to death to do that, and I work with them all the time. And so, lo and behold, here comes Diana, and every person in the congregation goes up to Diana, welcomes her, and invites her to come back. that needs to be in every Lord's church, everywhere. That means that involves you. Anybody here embarrassed? Okay. Anybody here shy? They are too. Okay?
Tell them what Stacy said when she first came.
Stacy obeyed the gospel, I don't know, two, 3 years ago. I don't remember. But she was invited by a young man that worked for her at the maid rite. And so the first time she came, she said, I could tell when I walked in that there was a lot of love here. People welcomed her. They let her know that they were glad that she was here. And they invited her to come back. And of course, that made it real easy. Of course, I think Dorothy and I came and talked with her for an hour and a half after services. Everybody was going, we was there. Of course, we do this all the time. We hang around at the building. A lot of us will be there for an hour and a half after services, whether it's Wednesday or Sunday morning. Sometimes it's forever till we get out of there. Sunday evening, we love the fellowship. We love to be together, and so it's just a good feeling. But Stacy said, I could tell when I walked in that there was a lot of love here. She said this was different, and she'd been part of denominations in her lifetime, and she'd been around and seen different things, and she could tell it was different. Well, we started studying with her, and it wasn't, I don't know how long it was. It didn't take as long as it has with Rebecca, but she obeyed the gospel. She's amazing. She's amazing. Let me put a plug in, okay? And this is going to be the basis for the lesson today. This morning is about study. We've always had a new converts class from the very beginning, and we are presently having it on Tuesday morning at 10 and Tuesday evening at 7 because of people's work schedule. So we have 2 different classes every week. And we've always invited anybody to come. And so I've seen as many as 15 non-Christians in that Bible class with 1 or 2 or 3 Christians, okay? And so that Bible class is where Janet started coming just about 4 weeks ago. This is her 4th week that she's come to that Bible class. And during the Bible class, we were studying the plan of salvation. She said, look, I've been seeing this. She said, I'm really worried now because I know I need to do this. And her husband was the same, okay? That makes about 10 people that I baptized out of that Bible class. Now, admittedly, I was working with them before that, but there's something about that Bible class where we sit together in a how many of you made comments here? Okay? The auditorium class is one that we don't feel free to talk in. And I don't know why that is. You know, we're all embarrassed to talk. And I know partly because I talk too much. But you get me started on this subject, and it's hard for me to shut up. Raise your hand, and I'll let you comment. But at any rate, in this Bible class, there's very little discussion. The teacher gets up, and basically the teacher does all the talking. Now, in our new converts class, everybody feels at ease and free to ask questions, to make comments, and then we chase all these rabbits that comes up. And it's an amazing class, and the time that we have together is so important. But I think Carl and Janet were about either 9 or 10 converts out of that class in the 14 years that I've been up there.
Tell them the book that you use.
I use that Beginning of Our Confidence by, who is it? I can't think of the name. And you can use anything. It's the setting and the love that's surrounded in that smaller fellowship. Where I don't know if it's the room. We've done it in restaurants. We've done it in the auditorium, and we've done it in smaller confined areas, and they're always the same. I don't know what the difference is, but there's something different about getting away from the normal assembly that makes people feel more at ease. And so that Bible class, the New Converts class, has been very good. And it's just more of an open time to study and to look at those things. But at any rate, so I'm going to deal with more of that. I'm going to move on from that because I want to deal with some of that in the worship hour this morning. But I want to talk to you about Rebecca. We're having trouble with our younger generation. One of the biggest challenges that we have in a new work is getting young families involved. Young people, they're not interested. Now, I think we're in a wonderful time of history, okay? I don't want you to look at COVID and all this trash that's been going on as bad. I know there's bad things. I know our society is in a terrible turmoil. But I want you to look at it from the perspective of God's eyes. Why does God allow bad things to come? Why does God raise individuals up in kingdoms to rule? Well, in Acts chapter 17, it says that they will seek Him. And so you look at all these bad things, and you say, you know what? I think this is a wonderful opportunity. We are in one of the greatest times in history where, yes, the ungodliness around us is just, we cringe. But guys, I'm going to tell you something. Sin does not make good lives. And we need to understand that miserable lives lead people to Jesus. It causes them to recognize that I don't have it together, that I need something that I'm not finding. And I was preaching about evangelism in Nashville last October, I think it was, and at the end of it, one of the people there said, "What do you think about all this COVID stuff?" I said, "I think it's fantastic. I love it. I've had one of the best years of my life. I've had a lot of opportunities to teach, even in the midst of this distancing." And I said, it has been one of the greatest times of my life. And I said, I think that 2021 is going to be even better. And I'm excited about it. You got to look past the problems, and you got to look through God's eyes and remember what it is that God is wanting to bring about. He's wanting people to get to where they seek Him. And when people turn more and more ungodly, their life gets more and more worse. And they begin to say, I want something. I'm not finding it in this. And so I think we just need to look at it differently. All right, and that's my perspective on this. And as I go about the community, I'm always trying to do that. But anyway, Rebecca is one of those. She is that 21-year-old, okay? And she kind of drinks the Kool-Aid, you know. She's still wanting to wear a mask, and that's fine. I respect that, you know. One of the things when it came to mask at Newton, we had two members that were very concerned. They just wouldn't come if we didn't wear masks. And I don't like making rules where God didn't make one. And so we talked about that. And I'll tell you what, we got some vehement haters for masks. And Steve's one of those. Talk about getting wound up when he has to wear a mask. And so this subject came up on Sunday morning, and Sunday evening I came, and in my lesson I said, you know guys, and I knew kind of how the men thought, and so I said, I don't know about you, but I said, I kind of hate for us to make rules that God didn't make. And I said, I think what I'm going to do personally is if those individuals that are concerned come to church, I am going to have a mask with me, and I will wear that mask. Everybody had them with them Wednesday. We didn't make no rule. Out of respect, out of a deep hatred on some of these people's part for the mask, they brought one, and they wore it when they needed to. Talk about a lot of love. I'm getting off my count, and I know that bell's going to ring here pretty quick. So feel free to ask questions if you want. I will shut up for long enough for you to ask questions, and I'll try to answer. Yes, sir.
The last time we were up there, you were using the building a lot in the community. It's not one of the big things you guys have done. How's that?
Well, because of COVID, we've shut down the use of the building for people to come and use. And so we've kept it that way for now because we're just afraid the way the media is, if something happened and they can trace it back to there, it would put us in a bad light. So at present, we do not allow the building to continue to be used, other than, if it's part of us or if it's a funeral or something like that. And so I've found a lot of good opportunities in that. We've got a building that was used in the past where people could come and use the facilities. We kind of had a fellowship hall with a kitchen area, and they could use that for their parties and stuff. And it made a good opportunity. And so I haven't seen converts from that, but we've seen people that attend, and maybe I'm mistaken because different ones have come for different reasons, and I don't know. But it's this past year and since then, we just have not opened it back up for that. And so at any rate, Rebecca is 21. And it is really interesting to study with her. She's pretty quiet. This past week, she really opened up, and you can tell that we're down the last few questions because I'm beginning to see a different look in her eyes. I begin to see more of a confidence in us because of the study that we've had over the past several months. I'm not sure. And that's a good thing. I mean, I can see that change over the period of time. But Rebecca, she has had some of the most interesting questions. And Rebecca is not one that will just take a simple answer. A lot of times we have learned something over the years because we put the passages together and we know. Well, we don't remember the passages, but we remember what we learned from the study of the passages. Well, when she asks questions, we've got to go back in our mind and remember all those passages and take her to those passages because she wants to know for sure. Is that exciting or what? That's pretty exciting study. And so I'm hoping that within 2 weeks I'll be able to write a letter and an email, my weekly email. Sometimes it's not weekly, but anyway, I hope to be able to write and tell you that Rebecca has obeyed the gospel. I hope so. But she's so close, and she's a little hard to read, but she's really kind of opened up in this last study, and I thought it went very well. And she's just quiet, but man, she has some hard questions, and you got to go back and deal with those, which I'm going to deal with the questions, okay? I don't care I love it when there's questions. And sometimes it takes a while to deal with some of those. But is that the young generation? Some of you younger people, I mean, you're dealing with people. Are they? I mean, a lot of them don't have any background at all, and so they don't have that concept of some of these things that we know and understand. And so, but one of the things that I believe is so very important is reaching out into that age group of our society and leading them to Jesus. Because what we often do is we find somebody that's lived their life and they made their mistakes, their family is going to hell, and they can't change that. So we convert them to Christ and they get their life turned around, but they're not bringing up the next generation. They've already destroyed the next generation. And so my desire, and one of the biggest struggles that we have in the work, is trying to find young people. We've had a couple of young families and they'd come for a little while. They haven't been converted. Well, maybe some of them have. But anyway, for one reason or another, they want to go to the city where there's a big congregation with lots of kids. And I'm thinking, how do you grow a church? It's hard without young people, How do you get a young family? We had a young family with 6 kids, homeschool. They came, and one of the first things he said, where's the kid? Ain't no kid. And so it's hard to get them. I remember knocking doors, and they said they would come, And I remember one day I was up there preaching, and the door opened, and he looked in and looked around, and there's no kids, so he took off. I know the battle's to the Lord, okay? That's what the Bible tells me. But it's a long, hard battle sometimes. And to me, and it's one thing the church in Newton is praying for families to obey the gospel. Denver's 76, Roy's 59, Steve's 62, Carrie is 60, Kenneth is 88, Kathy is 76, Bonnie is 72. I mean, we're all going to die. Where's the young families? And honestly, this is where I want to cry. We got to reach the young families. And so, we got Brian and Shelley and Austin and Krista, and they're all young. I think Brian and Shelley are in the early 40s, maybe mid 40s. And then Austin and Krista are like 18 and 21. But it's just hard. We had one family that worshiped with us, and they had two smaller children, and they decided they wanted to go to Des Moines, where there was a bigger congregation where they had kids. Sometimes I just like to cry on your shoulder, okay? It's not all roses. It's a challenge. It's worth it because they're souls, and I don't care if they're old and ready to die. As long as they go to heaven. But the goal is to grow and go forward. The goal is to grow it to where it can keep going. And we've got so much good. And so I plead with you, pray for young families. Pray for young families. We do it all the time because we know that it's something important. But that young family with 6 kids, he said, we'd kind of like to go somewhere where our kids got other kids to play with. Okay? So, where's your faith in God? I grew up in a congregation that didn't have kids. I met Dorothy 1,800 miles away. Worked out pretty good for me, and she grew up in a congregation that had a lot of kids, and she said, that's a mess. I don't think any of them are faithful, are they? Very few out of all that bunch. And so, there's opportunities, guys. Let's give it all that we've got. Give it all that we've got. I think I'm out of time. Am I not?
5 minutes.
I got 5 minutes. Okay.
Tell
All right.
how we met. Tell how we met, Rebecca. How that's a good work.
Okay.
Taking her out.
All right. So one of the things that we do is that if we get a visitor, if possible, we'll take them out to dinner. And so Rebecca just showed up on her doorstep. She came Sunday morning. She actually she works at Perkins, so she can't get there till worship time. And so at any rate, she just came. We took her and Maggie and Austin out to restaurant afterwards and had a good time. She's pretty quiet. She liked to talk business because she's hoping to start a business once she's out of college. And so we had good conversation. The next week she came and I was kind of discouraged because the first time when we went out to eat with her, I wasn't able to get a study set up. Okay? I really tried to change my methods, and I'm always trying to find better ways. Part of it is because I can reach different people in the society. But it didn't flow. I didn't get a study. This came back the next week, and I was able to get a study. And I asked her, would you like to study Bible? Sure. We've been, in our Tuesday evening new converts class, it turned into kind of a men's class and a leadership class because we had all the young Christian men there. And here numerous weeks ago, they said, Fred, we were talking about preparing a lesson, and one of them said, how would you prepare a lesson on reaching people with the gospel? I mean, oh man. So at any rate, so they asked me, would you teach some lessons on how to make contacts and get things going? I said, well, yeah, I would fight that. And these are our men, okay? And so we've been going on that for quite a while, and so it's going pretty good, and I'm trying to do some teaching on that, and they're excited about it. And so they're really doing good. We need to be excited about winning the lost. And it's not about doing what you hate to do. I don't think it's about door knocking. I think it's about wherever you go, whatever you're doing, what you like to do. Find what you enjoy to do and do it with all your heart with the focus of, I want to reach somebody for Jesus. I don't care if you're scared to death of being around people and all you want to do is read. Go to the library to read. Because there are people there that you're going to bump shoulders with, and you'll be able to have a conversation with them. Invite them to church. And then take them out to eat. Get to know them. Invite them into your homes. And get that social aspect going. Because a lot of these times, if they come in the doors, they're looking for something. And if we don't get in there and jump on it now, they're going to be gone. They're going to go somewhere else with somebody paying a little attention to them. When we pay a little attention to them, then they're going to say, you know what, I'm kind of interested in this. And then when we sit down and say, would you like to study the Bible? They'll say, yeah. Yeah. And really, what's going on is these people, they want to, and they're willing to, but they just need somebody to ask. And if you don't feel comfortable teaching somebody, you can still get the Jewel Miller film strips. We've been going through those in our Bible classes, and these guys are saying, I'm telling them, anybody can do this. Of course, they know that I'll set the Bible study, they bring them. If they bring them to me, I can get the Bible study set up usually. And I'll conduct it the other way, but I said, it doesn't need to be that way. You can sit down with them. We used to use them thing for years. Remember them? Remember Poplar Bluff, Highland Drive gave me a set years ago, and your name's in there where you checked one of them out, Dennis. I just checked the other day. I was looking at it, and I was going through that little card on the back, and you had used them. I don't know what year, it's been a long time ago, but at any rate, so I've got those, and I've been showing them to everybody, and they've been loving them. And I say, take them out and use them. That's what they're here for. Nobody has VCR anymore. I said, we'll get the DVD. I said, it's no big deal. And so, but at any rate, they still teach the truth. And if they're like Roy, they're not going to sit down and talk to you, but they'll watch a video. Okay? And so anyway, so a lot of good. I know I'm out of time. I love you guys. Anything quick you want to ask, you can ask me afterwards if you want. But, all right, I'm going to be quiet.